Important notice: the following content may be triggering. Viewer discretion is advised. All discussions are based on personal opinions and experiences. If you or someone you know needs help, please reach out to a local support organization.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors. So I'm going to put a little disclaimer out. Usually my podcast producer, Amanda, is in here. Everybody usually sees her, knows her, but she's out sick. So please bear with me while I'm doing the podcast today here on my own. But we are so glad you have joined us all for this special podcast. I've been really looking forward to that here today. So we're going to kick this off with, so today's podcast, we are discussing Denim Day, right? And what were you wearing? And the lie that we still believe when it comes to those kinds of questions and what that's centered around and victim blaming, right? So the biggest thing is there's this question, right? It echoes through courtrooms and classrooms and conversations around the world. It's a question that has haunted survivors for generations. What were you wearing when, right? That one question shifts blame. It redirects accountability and deeply wounds those who have endured way too much already. And the most painful part is still being asked to this very day. But what if you were told your jeans, your dress, your sweatshirt was the cause of the violence you endured? That is the only thing that was responsible for causing you harm. So this week, Through the Eyes of Survivors, we are deep diving into Denim Day, which is a global campaign born from that kind of a shocking injustice, right? We're honored to have Miss Lauren Hill with us. She is a domestic violence survivor and educator, and one of BTSADV's most powerful voices as a board secretary here. But before we meet Lauren, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. So if you like what we're doing and you need an efficient way to create some content, a meaningful short form content from longer episodes, Opus Clip. Opus Clip is what we use. It is a great AI tool that we rely on. And just a few clicks, it breaks down full length video in short, shareable, high impact reels, and it saves us countless hours every week. So please check out Opus Clip. It's scrolling across the bottom there. It's opus.pro/question via equals BTSADV 25. You can support BTSADV when you do. So, all right, let's get into it. We don't want to miss this conversation here with Lauren. So, Lauren, we welcome you to Through the Eyes of Survivors. Lauren's background: she is a passionate educator, college advisor, and domestic violence survivor advocate. With over a decade of experience in higher education, Lauren currently serves as a director of summer residential programs at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts and as a senior college advisor for collegeadvisor.com. She holds degrees in liberal studies, higher education, and is certified in mental health first aid and conflict resolution. And as the secretary of the board here at Break the Silence for Domestic Violence, Lauren definitely uses her voice loud and clear for a purpose here, and has lived the experience as a 7-year survivor to empower others. And She challenges the systems when it fails victims. So, Lauren, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. It's glad to be back and just to be among everyone and having a conversation.
Absolutely. So, first, I'd love for you to kind of explain and get into the origins of Denim Day, which today is Denim Day. Why is that so important?
Well, Denim Day, it's important because it's a global movement. Really, it is a global movement. And it was based off a case in Italy in the 90s. During the 90s. And a young woman, she took a taxi. And her taxi driver drove her into an alley. And he sexually assaulted her. And so when the case went to trial, it got the word, I guess I wouldn't say dismissed, but you can almost say it was.
Hmm.
He said that it was because of the jeans she wore made me believe that she wanted it. Now, if you remember jeans from the 90s,
Oh, yeah. Oh, shoot. Jeans in the 80s when I was a teenager.
jeans are because the different style of jeans have evolved over time because I'm a skinny jeans girl now. Like, I'm a skinny jeans, straight jeans. If I'm wearing, and I probably wear some bell bottoms that was back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like this. Her clothing should not be your reason to think that this is what I wanted, and I'm just in the backseat minding my business. And so, and I'm a jeans girl next to some leggings and some tights, and but does that, and also for us uh human beings that are on the thicker side of the spectrum, if you know what I'm saying, we come with a little extra.
Mhm.
So that makes but we what but it's like this, our clothing should not define how we display ourselves.
Right.
Don't just assume that this is what I'm expecting from you and you're a total stranger to me. And so because of that case, like next day, the Italian parliament all wore jeans as a movement because of that case. And that started from 1999 till now, and it's still going on to this day. It's a global movement and awareness that jeans is not the answer for you to believe that you can do whatever you want, and you just thought that that's what I was expecting from a stranger. No, because I wear jeans, and I was blessed with hips and everything else, but that does not mean that I'm expecting that from you, if you know what I'm saying. And she
Yeah.
was a young woman. She was in her 20s. And so I'm like, and I actually did some research on the 90s jeans back in the day. I said, where did you get this idea?
Mhm.
Because 90s outfits were like baggy jeans.
Yeah, see, in
It
the
was like,
80s, we all wore designer jeans, and they were really tight. Yeah,
I'm
so
saying, but even and everybody was skinny.
mhm,
You know what I mean? And so it's like, wait a minute. Or you wore like the sports outfits, like even like the leotards with the tights on, with the
mhm,
knee highs, knee high socks. That was back in the day. So, but that does not give anyone the right to assume what my outfit says to you. So if
mhm,
I'm wearing a suit, what does that say to you? Right? And so, or if I'm wearing, like, okay, so I have some outfits. You know how you have your outfits where there's special occasions, and you got those outfits that you're running errands in.
mhm,
So I have my running errands outfits where there's like a t-shirt, some tights, and some tennis shoes because I'm trying to be comfortable and I'm on a mission. It's like my on a mission outfit because I ain't trying to be distracted. I'm on a mission. But does that outfit tell you that this is what I'm expecting from you? So denim day is very important because this is about being assaulted. That was not given,
yeah,
or the right word to say is this assault
consent,
was unnecessary. Yeah, it
yeah,
wasn't consent. And
mm-mm,
that's that is something that needs to be talked about, because consent is something that needs to be, that's a conversation.
Yes, clothing doesn't make consent.
No, no, until I give you that verbal consent saying yes or no, that should tell you.
Mm-mm.
And oftentimes consent is not being verbalized. Is
Mm-hmm.
often just being is consent is actually muted, if you say it's the right word, because they'll make the assumptions, and then and then that other part, and when the party, they just mute. Oh, I'm not asking about. They're not thinking. Oh, consent. Should I ask? They're not
Right.
thinking that way. They just think, oh, she wants it. Did you ask me? Because oftentimes, when there's a police report, they'll ask, well, was this consented? And yes, I understand that that are there's, if you've seen a lot of outfits, and just to let y'all know, guys, Tara will come back, but just letting you know that, oh, there she goes.
Hey, sorry about that. We're having some storms and my electricity gets keeps flashing. So I'm back. I'm back.
No, I was telling them you were gonna come back, but
Mhm.
I say consent is a conversation that definitely needs to be had when it comes to a situation like this. So this is why Denim Day is so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And please, if you're watching, jump into the comments. We would love to hear some of your opinions, and answer any questions you have as we're talking about this conversation. So, Linda and Carrie and Misty, I see you in there. Thank you for joining us right now. So, Miss Lauren, um, so let's talk about the hard truths of this, right? If someone is whatever they're wearing, definitely it has zero correlation, right, to whether or not they're insulted. But um, research I had read out of the University of Michigan found that survivors often report wearing everyday clothes like sweatpants, hoodies, uniforms, like you were talking about. That has consistently, like, 80% been what someone was wearing while they were assaulted. So there's a huge myth and misconception that is centered around that someone has dressed provocatively, so they were looking for it, right?
Absolutely, because sometimes the stigma of certain outfits they're thinking is being sexualized, and it's not. So, like, if I'm wearing a bathing suit and I'm by the pool, what does that say? What is that meaning? I'm
Mhm.
just chilling by the pool, minding my business. Or if I'm, like you said, wearing a sweatshirt and a hoodie and it's wintertime, I'm just trying to stay warm while I'm doing whatever I needed to do. If it's summer and I'm just so happen to wear shorts, I'm just trying to keep cool because it's hot. So clothes it's not the matter of clothing, it's the matter of what is going on in your mind that made you believe that
Mm,
this is okay. What made you believe that this was consensual? And that's also what was part of the case, that it got part of the case that got dismissed, because they actually he got he like I said, I think like I said, he got dismissed because they believed it was the jeans, and they actually believed them, and he got dismissed. And it's like, wait a minute, the jeans consented for her? I didn't know jeans could talk. I didn't know clothing could talk. Now, understand, our outfits is an expression of who we are, and it's an expression of our style and our uniqueness. I get it, but don't assume. Please don't assume, because you can see, you wouldn't even like, you can even if a person's wearing like a t-shirt and some Nike joggers, might be a millionaire. Never know.
mm,
but but that goes to show you that clothing, if a clothing doesn't have a voice, if you get what I'm saying. So if clothing doesn't have a voice, what was the voice in your head telling you then? That's a question.
Right.
That's a question. So I I agree with you. You can just be wearing any everyday clothing. That does not mean I consented to doing something that I'm not, or any person is comfortable with. So
Right.
I agree with that research.
It essentially is the broader problem of what we were stating before, at the beginning, when I said that uh, people are looking for some kind of answer to why, because you can't fathom somebody doing something so horrible and so destructive to another person, that you got to find somebody to blame. But in this case, most people want to blame the victim. For some reason, the victim is the person who gets all of the blame. And the devastating side effects of that is unreal, because they're already questioning in their head, what did I do? Did I take the wrong route home that caused this to occur? Did I enter into the wrong cab? Did I, say something to this guy that provoked him into thinking maybe that I did this? And then to turn around and be blamed for what you're wearing is, I think, a huge slap in the face.
I would agree because victim blaming is like you're revisiting every moment of that traumatic event all over again. And then when they bestow their faults and they justify it and they put it on you, there's no accountability there. Because they're going, like you said, they're gonna blame somebody, but no, but the suspect or whoever done the act is not going to take accountability for the actions that they made, because they thinking, oh, I didn't do nothing, that was her. No, 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 no. But when you victim blame us, you put us in a box, and then we're going through our minds, what did I do wrong?
Hmm.
You're putting that guilt upon us, like we're carrying a cross that had nothing to do with us. We already bearing the cross of the traumatic event because it happened to us. Now we got to bear another cross that it was your fault.
Right.
That's like a narcissistic move.
It
that
ain't like it is, that's for sure.
that is a narcissistic move, because it's like, wait a minute, so it's my fault that I got in the car with you thinking I'm gonna go home safely, and I have on some jeans, again, jeans from the 90s, y'all, that made you believe this is what, no, no, no. And then you're going to put it on me? That's not fair. And then that puts, and guess what? We're evaluating every move we make after that. We're wondering to ourselves, what could I have done differently? Like you said, maybe I shouldn't have take that cab, or take that Uber, or take that Lyft. Maybe I should have took another way home. Or, I mean, there's other, you're, the victim is literally reevaluating everything in their minds. And to the point, they're going to start reevaluating every move that they make every single day, because they're thinking it's their fault. And it's not their fault.
Right.
But that person that did the act put it on the victim. They putting that weight on the victim. The victim already is dealing with trying to grasp what happened. And then now I gotta say it's my fault. That is something that I wish on no one. Knowing as domestic violence survivors, you know how many times we got victim blamed because they blamed us for their actions, and we hadn't, but we're the ones getting hurt. We're the ones going through the suffering. It's like, wait a minute. So what was your justification? So you're going to justify your wrong for my innocence. I'm suffering. I'm paying the price of your action, but it had nothing, but I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
That's a heavy weight to carry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and as a survivor yourself, and an educator, right? What do you wish people would understand about those first questions that victims are asked about, like, what did you wear? What did you do?
I would say before you start thinking, why is it my fault? Or what did I do something wrong? Because that's going to cause a lot of confusion. As an educator, I often say, are you, it's like this, the questions I would ask is self-reflection, but not in the way of guilt. But oftentimes self-reflection is not an automatic for us.
Mhm.
And I don't mean self-reflection as a way of improvement. Self-reflection can be like revisiting. And then
Mhm.
when you're revisiting, that's PTSD all over again. And that's what you don't want. Or it's going to trigger something from way back when. And you don't want that.
Mhm.
And when victims are blamed, they hide. When victims are being blamed, they hide. And I'm not just talking about physically hiding, they hide their emotions
Mhm.
to the point it's almost immune and they're motionless. And it's like they're just being straight faced about it. But deep down, it's it's hard to break them because it's like it when I say it's hard to break, some people have a hard time. It's going to make them harder to trust
Right.
and be vulnerable. And it's bad enough. I've seen a lot of students that have a hard time expressing themselves freely, being themselves freely, and just being expressive and vulnerable with adults. And I'm not just talking about, like, I'm talking about between pre and some adolescents, pre-adolescents to young adults. Any of us that's 30 and up, we already know what to do by now. But see, even then, that's even harder. But it's that particular age, they have a hard time.
Mhm.
And guess what? When they have a hard time trusting and being vulnerable, guess what? They're not going to seek help.
Right.
That's the thing.
Like,
When they're victim blamed, they're not going to ask for help because they're scared that no one will believe them.
oh yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so, and I hear this all the time. I say, and I tell my students, please do not be afraid to seek help. I don't care what situation it may be, but it's the fear of being vulnerable. And when they have a trust and it's been broken, it's like they're keeping their cards close to their chest because they don't want to get hurt. They don't want, because they're not being seen, they're not being heard, they're not even asked the right questions. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Because when you're victim blamed, you're being switched from victim to suspect at this point. And they asking you questions, well, why did you wear this? What mindset you on? Wait a minute. How about you ask me, how am I feeling at this moment? Ask that question. How am I feeling? What's going through my mind? Because it may be a million things going in their mind. And then when you start asking the wrong questions, that wall goes up.
Mhm.
And it's going to be hard for them to seek help.
That's why
That's
so many victims don't even tell.
because they're afraid. It's
Mhm.
fear. They are petrified with fear because it's hard to trust anyone when you're petrified with fear. It's hard to trust when your heart is broken.
Right.
It's hard to trust when you already broken and then you get burned.
Mhm.
It's very hard to really it as a mental health first aider. The one thing they made it clear, sometimes you may not get them to express themselves the first day. It may take them a while because they trying to figure out, or they like, I don't know you, and that's okay. You give them that space.
Mm-hmm.
We have to create a safe space, and this is my rule that I've given myself, that I've learned and researched and educated myself over time. Create a safe and judgment free environment. Because when you victim blame, we feel like we're being judged.
Yes.
And when you're judged, it's like, nope, I'm not gonna talk to y'all. Y'all not gonna believe me. Y'all gonna believe this person who did it to me. And I'm the person that had to endure and suffer. I don't and if you've ever heard victims that have been abused or assaulted in any ways possible, it may have been maybe a couple of minutes, but to them it felt like hours.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to them. And it's like, what is, they're wondering, why am I suffering from this? And like I said, it may have been a couple of minutes, but it didn't feel like that.
Right.
And as even as domestic violence survivors, when we were in what we were in, it may not have been a long period of time, but it felt like it was like 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like we were suffering for so long, because if you notice, time, when we are enduring that kind of suffering, time goes slower. In our minds, it felt like time was going slower.
Mm-hmm.
And so when victims have a hard time expressing themselves, seeking help, and just simply not even telling what's going on, still be patient. Please be patient with them and don't judge, because someone had to be patient with you. You know what I'm saying? We we patience is something that is a discipline that we have to practice. It
Yeah.
is not just on ourselves, but we got to practice it on others. Why? You don't know what a person goes through every day. There are people who are suffering in silence.
Exactly. Let's go to a few of the comments real quick. So
Hmm.
we're going to see Carrie. She says, nothing justifies or excuses abuse. As a domestic survivor, I have learned to say no more acceptance of bad behavior. Exactly, Carrie. Exactly. And then Jim says, Lauren, I agree with you 100%. There is no excuse for abuse of any kind. I have a question for you, though. What would you say to those predators out there who live their lives in an alternate reality, who really believe that the clothes a person wears can be consent? We know that predators do not have the same mental outlook as decent and normal society. These individuals are dangerous and mentally impaired in a way that allows them to make excuses for their actions. So, how do we protect our daughters and granddaughters from those with this demented way of thinking? Good question. What do you say, Lauren?
Well, those predators, of course, I agree with him. They don't have a sense of reality.
Hmm.
They don't. They're in their own little world. They're in their own little bubble. They're not, because some predators it boils down to just being selfish. Some have deeply rooted issues that may be stemming from childhood. We don't know, but they lost their sense of reality. They lost their sense of human dignity. That would be the right word to put it. Um, because they're only thinking about themselves. What can I get
Hmm.
for free?
Hmm.
What can I get without repercussions? What can I get without the consequences? And it's sad that they only think about themselves and not think about others.
Hmm.
Now there are some situations where the predator, they actually experience someone doing it to them. So they're thinking, but here's the other scenario: hurt people hurt people. Bottom line.
Mhm.
And those predators, they're little do they know, if they think they can get away with it, it's gonna come to a head and they're gonna get found
Mhm.
one way or another. And they're gonna reap the repercussions, even if it's even if they may not go through the legal system. There's a thing called a conscience, and that conscience will eat them up. But there's some predators, they just
Have no conscience at all. Yeah,
none,
none.
none. And that and guess what? But guess what? You still gonna have to answer to that. That's the thing. You're gonna have to answer to that. I don't care how you avoid it. You can try to block it out of your mind like it never happened. It still happened. It may be 20 years from now. You still did it. And how you still walking around like it's nothing. But that's how much selfishness that's in their hearts because they only care about themselves. So for us, as those who are on the opposite side, to protect like our daughters, our nieces, our granddaughters, even our children in general, it's we always say be aware of your surroundings. That's how my mom taught me. Be aware of your surroundings. If and then of course if something doesn't feel right, leave. And even in colleges, if you notice that it's hard for college students to even to even open up, if that's the right word, open
Mm.
up about that kind of situation. So it's like even on college campuses, even at your jobs, be alert. And if you get a bad feeling, that gut feeling like something, and I always say this to my mom, I said, something in my spirit is not right. And usually I'm right. And it we call it what we call a spirit of discernment. But some people and they call it it's intuition. But at the same time, be aware of your surroundings, and that when you have that gut feeling, know that you're going to be that gut feeling is right, and just also like if you're taking an Uber, I learned this years ago, and I have this, and there's an app that I've used, and even on Uber, anytime I've taken an Uber, I've actually shared my ride with people so they know where I am. I've shared my location with people I love because things happen.
Mhm.
That's going the extra mile for not because if to protect myself, if you know what I mean,
Right.
and that knowingly that I can put like I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'm going to get hurt. That's what I would say because those predators who have mental problems, who are narcissistic, they're going to reap the repercussions of their actions. They can justify it to the ends of the earth, but they still have to answer to that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. From what I have seen, there is a lot from the predators that they rationalize and justify their behaviors, and they don't think of it as applying to them. Societal rules don't seem to apply to them. Other people's feelings don't apply to them. So it's teaching our daughters and granddaughters how to see those little signs, and when they're uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form or manner, leave. And it doesn't matter if you hurt their feelings. It doesn't matter what they say or do to try to get you to stay in that position. Go, because 9 times out of 10, your feelings are going to be right. So I want to point out Janet's comment here. She says, I'm a domestic violence counselor, and I can tell you something that most people don't understand. DV as is an addiction issue, not to drugs or alcohol. The abuser is addicted to power and control, and the victim is addicted to codependency.
I agree. I agree.
Absolutely.
I
Yes.
agree with you because when you're codependent, you're like a rejection magnet. If that's the right word. Because but it's like whatever actions that I did that was wrong, I'm putting it on somebody else
Hmm.
and give them the blame and let them suffer. And what's interesting, they're watching them suffer as
Right.
if it's a power, like a power thing, even though you did it. Like they gain some power after seeing somebody suffer twice. Think about it. They endure the act that happened to them, and then they're getting victim blamed. So you're watching this person suffer as if this is like a power, like some you're getting power out of it.
Well, and
And
that's why I love this whole thing about Denim Day and what it represents. So, I think a lot of the listeners have been through moments where, you want to question your behavior, right? Or you've had your behavior questioned instead of us questioning the abuser's choices. And that's what this movement is. It represents like the defiance of that they defied that question, that we should be transferring that more towards the abuser, questioning his choices in those moments instead of questioning the victim.
I agree because questioning the victim puts them in a position. It's like nope, and and again it makes it harder for them to trust. But you'll trust the suspect that did it. Hmm.
Yeah. So let's talk about the emotional impact, right? So
Mm.
how do survivors of this kind of assault reclaim their narrative and find healing?
I would say it's finding the voice back,
Mhm.
finding their voice back. And because when you've been abused and you've been hurt and you've been broken, you feel like you're a fish in a fish tank. They can't talk. That's interesting. They can't talk. They just blowing bubbles, trying to breathe. That's the catch. They're trying to breathe and they've been muted. And when you've been muted, in your mind, no one believes you.
Mhm.
And no one seems to understand that I'm broken. And this is something that I've learned. Sometimes it's hard for victims and survivors when they're fresh out. It's hard to put it in words.
Mhm.
They don't give it sound. They don't give it words. They can't really describe it. And oftentimes I've done an exercise when I have a student or someone that is having a hard time trying to name their emotions. Okay, are you feeling mad? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling angry? Are you having hate? Do you feel fearful? I ask different questions and I say why? Where's it coming from? Where's the root of it? And then eventually it's like, you know what? I am feeling like this. When you give it a voice and you give it a name, that helps you understand it's not my fault.
Right.
And so when you find that voice, trust me, the voice never left. It got muted. And when it got muted, it's like they put a muffle on your mouth and you're trying to talk and no one hears you. No, find that voice again. Find it. I don't care if you got to dig for it. I don't care if you have to look all around the world for it. Find that voice. But guess what? Sometimes you may not find that voice on your own.
Mm-hmm.
It takes the right person to hear you, to understand you. Sometimes it takes an act of kindness for that person to find that voice.
And even
And
through
act,
counseling and therapy, right? You got to
mhm,
find the right person to hear you.
yes, because it's you may not get it from your family. You may get it from a friend. If you may not get it from your friend, you might get it from a church member. If you don't get it from a church member, you might get it from um like I said, from your therapist. And if you ain't getting it from your therapist, you gon' somebody gonna show you some kindness. And they gonna push you to say, it's time for you to start talking. It's time for you to start talking. It's you have been hiding in the shadows too long. And even I can say that because I was muted. I couldn't I knew I was talking, but it was like, I don't know. I'm not sure. It was that kind of situation. But thankfully I had a support system that said, no, it's time for you to start talking. It's time for you to speak loud, to speak louder. And I'm not talking about in volume. I'm talking about you finding yourself to say, this is this is who I am and this is not who I am.
Right.
And guess what? And be unapologetic when you say it. Be a walking billboard and saying, this is who I am. And not be afraid of it. That's something that emotionally it's hard to do because you're teeter-tottering. Should I not?
Mm.
Until, like I said, until the right person say, give you that push, and they like start start singing like a bird.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say emotionally is you go through a lot of emotions, a lot. But
Right.
finding that, but it's let me tell you, when you find that voice, and you could probably be a testament, when you finally find that voice, it's a freeing experience. It's
Right.
a liberating experience. Why? You have laid down that burden. You have taken that weight off of you.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
you don't know, and guess what? And you don't have to pick it back up.
Mm-mm. No, you don't. I agree with Jim. I think this is a good place that he says that's why Break the Silence provides a safe platform for victims to speak out. I mean, that is essentially what this platform was all about when it started, breaking that silence, right? And so, for those of you out there who need somebody to listen to you, someone who understands, uh, BTSADV does have a support line, and I've put it into the chats here. If you need something, someone to listen to you, resources to help you find your voice, contact those over on our support line. They are survivors and they understand. So, definitely recommend contact our support line, and they will provide you all kinds of resources. That's something else Lauren does here that we didn't mention in the bio. Um, and Lauren did before she became a board member. She's our resource coordinator, helping to provide the resources over for people in support line to help you find those types of resources and coordinate those things with you. So absolutely contact that. You want to talk just a little bit about that, Lauren?
Well, resources as a resource coordinator, I get the intake. And what I do is I read the intake of what they're asking. But I make it a way. Well, what's your best way of best method of communication to talk to me? If you know what I'm saying, because I
Mm,
want to hear the story. I want to hear where it all started
right.
and how did we get here. And I've if you ask me, ever since I've taken this position, I've heard so many stories where it came from. I've heard where Miss Lauren, I came from a two-parent home. I've never seen this kind of stuff before. So why does this always happen? Why did it happen to me?
Right.
And I make it clear this is a safe and judgment-free zone. I'm just trying to hear your story. I'm just want to hear your story. And in that story, of course they already in the intake they already say what kind of resources, but it's like this. Sometimes they may list it and it's hard to list it, but it may be something else too. And as I'm hearing the story, I'll be like, I read that you wanted this. But I'm also hearing you may need another type of resource. And they're like, and eventually they be like, they think about it and they're like, you know what, Miss Lauren, you're right. I do need that. Sometimes in my position, I was not even sometimes, I would say 90% of the time, they just want somebody to listen.
Right. Absolutely. And you can call that number or even text. So if you don't feel safe enough to call, you can text our support line advocates and they will respond to you. So
Hmm.
absolutely. Um, so let's see. I don't see too many other comments right now, but what would you say, Lauren, about culturally? Um, how do we end this victim blaming? How do we start to talk about that and how we should respond to victims?
I said we should not put victim blaming and we should not sweep victim blaming under the rug. I'm sorry. We should not just be like ignoring that. No, we can't do that. This should be a conversation we need to have in our communities, bottom line.
Mhm,
Because oftentimes in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in our churches, people don't want to talk about sensitive topics because again they thinking it's a sensitive topic because they thinking it might people are not ready for that conversation. I'm sorry, but it needs to be a conversation. I'm sorry, it needs to be a conversation. Why? Because this can be preventable, and if it does happen we'll be ready to have this conversation. We'll be ready to help those in need. We'll be able to serve those who need. And I understand some people's like, I'm not trained for that. I'm not ready for that. Okay, understandable. Then we'll have the right people in place to be who is ready and willing to do something like that because this type of stuff cannot be ignored. We need to have a conversation. And then when we have a conversation, we need to have a plan in place of steps. So
mhm,
when you are being victim blamed, this is not just something that happens culturally. This is happening. This needs to be social economically wise because they're thinking only rich people don't have to worry about that stuff. No, victim blaming can happen to anyone.
mhm,
It does not discriminate. That abuse does not discriminate. Assault does not discriminate. Victim blaming does not discriminate. Narcissists don't discriminate.
no,
This kind of stuff does not discriminate. So we need to have a plan in place, a safety plan for those who are being victim blamed. And also express to the people who want to know, please do not say why didn't you get out? Because that is the most
Yeah, that's the
judgmental
worst.
thing you can say.
That is the worst.
Do
But
not
I'll
say
tell
that.
you right now, from my own history and story. So I'll tell everybody this story out there. I think as a society, we need to more and more shut it down when you hear it. You may so a good example within my story is when my daughter was enduring her abuse. Um, he called me. He had the audacity to call me and say, "Well, I hit your daughter because she tells lies and she says this and she says that, and that I'm going to send you a recording." And he hung up with me and sent me a recording, and I heard in that recording how he coerced her into saying things she did not want to say because she kept saying, "No, I won't say this. No, I won't say this." And then you hear him smack her,
Mm-mm.
and then she says, "Yes, I did these things." And then he calls me back. "Did you listen?" And my first response was, "I don't give a rat's you know what she said, what she did, even if it was true. You had no right to put your hands on her.
Right.
No right. I don't care if she lied. I don't care if she slept with the whole world. I don't care what she did. You don't have that right." And I think as a society, we've got to come at it with that attitude. You don't have the right to say that.
I
Don't
agree.
say that.
We have
Where,
to shut down that
yeah, you got to
stigma.
shut that down.
We have to shut down that stigma. We have to shut down that stereotype. We have to shut it down. And
Mhm.
the way to shut it down, that is one culture we have to cancel. And
Yeah.
that look, that is a hashtag for you all. Cancel that culture. Please. Why when you judge us, you shut us down.
Mhm.
You shut us down completely.
Yeah, because when you buy into that scenario,
Mhm.
that he was wanting me to buy into this scenario, that was her fault.
No.
He wanted me to buy into that so that I would blame her, so society will blame her. And that is what happens. And when we buy into that, and then we buy into it in our courtrooms as well,
We
there's
have to
no
shut down
excuse
that
in that.
stigma.
Mhm.
We have to shut it down because in order for you to get an understanding, you have to hear what the person is saying. And I'm not saying the suspect or the abuser themselves. What is how is this person suffering? And when you ask them, why didn't you just leave? Wait a minute. You don't know what was going on through that person's head. You don't know what that person was enduring. You don't know what barriers that was going on that they actually believed. You
Mhm.
don't know that. So before you start giving that okie doke question, that's something else we have to do. Rethink the questions you're going to ask. Re It's like this. You have to stop and think. Do not just say stuff just to be saying stuff. Because oftentimes when y'all asking questions, y'all asking judgmental questions because y'all don't want to hear because y'all thinking it's nothing but drama. No, 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 no. This is a serious situation. This is a stereotype that's been happening
It's a
way too
life
long.
or death situation, and I
Yeah,
can say that from experience.
yes. It is a stigma that has to be canceled. We have to. Why? Because there's going to be too many DV victims or people who's being assaulted and hurt or who are in narcissistic relationships that are not going to survive. And they're
Mhm.
going to think I'm not just talking about death. They're going to think this is my life now.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-mm.
Constance has a good question in here. How do we shut down the stigma?
Calling it out, saying this is not right. But we also can bring up Okay, so this is something that you probably may ask. What questions can we ask?
Mm-hmm.
But when you ask questions, bring it in a way of kindness and not being biased. Think it this way, because if you're asking a question, is not just being in as a way of intake. You're asking questions because you care. And if it's coming out of place of care, out of place of love, and a place of kindness, you will not be asking judgmental questions. And to you, when people ask those types of judgmental questions, they're not thinking it's judgmental. So to end the stigma, call it out. Say, wait a minute, I don't have to. To some victims, are like, I don't have to answer that,
Mm-hmm.
because some of them are not ready to give an answer.
And some
They're
of the
not ready.
questions are not your privilege to know the answers
No,
to.
no,
No.
no. So we can shut. And so it's like this. No, I don't have to answer you that. I don't have to. We don't. That person does not have to answer that question. I don't care. They can try to force it. No, they don't have to force anyone to answer a question that makes them feel uncomfortable. That makes them feel like, what why am why feeling guilty?
Mhm.
Make them feel like they're less. No. So the best way to do that, think of some questions that is coming out of kindness. Saying, because oftentimes when I've experienced in with students, I ask them this question: have you eaten today? Have your water intake today? Have you? And of course, a person that's going through that you're not going to ask those types of questions. But this is something I've asked. Have you? Have you got adequate amount of rest today? Last night, did you go to bed in a decent hour? Did you? Were you able to do some exercise? That kind of thing. But in a situation of victim blaming, DV, sexual assault, all of that, some questions you might want to ask: how are you feeling right now?
Mhm.
What's going through your mind? I understand, or this is something you can say: I understand you may not be able to talk, but I want you to hear it's okay to not feel okay.
Yeah. Part of shutting down that stigma, I feel, is finding a culture around you of people who are like minded, who will support
Absolutely.
you, who will help you shut down that stigma and say, I've been through that too. I am with you.
Mhm.
Reconnect. I mean, that's a big part of what the Me Too movement was about.
Yeah.
And for us to stand up and say, look, even if it didn't happen to you, if it's not a Me Too, to stand up and go, well, you know what? It is a Me Too in the fact that this is our daughters, this is our mothers, this is our granddaughters, this is our sisters, this is our brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Think of the other person.
yeah, because it can happen to men as well. And
It can happen to anybody.
mhm, and we just say no more, no more. So we have to use
No,
that.
no more.
That Me Too movement was definitely a big culture shock because people found their voices. And I think the momentum has come down from that, and it's a shame. And that's what this Denim Day was about. They found their voices. We got to keep that up. We got to keep that
Yes.
going. That momentum has to be preserved.
Yes, I agree. And just like I said, community support system. And even if you're the like I said, you're the other person and you've never been through anything like that before, have some kindness in your heart and give that person some grace. If you don't do nothing else, give them some grace, please. Because you don't know what they just endured. And when you give them grace, they start opening up.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yes, I like this what Jim says here. When you see or hear victim blaming going on, find your voice, speak out on behalf of that victim. Be blunt and don't accept this. I agree.
And actually, that what Jim just said, it all boils down to one word: advocacy.
Hmm. Sometimes you
Someone
got to
advocate
advocate
for you.
for yourself, But if you need
Hmm.
people helping you, there are resources out there to help advocate for you. Absolutely.
Absolutely, and that's where we come in too. We can we help, and as a resource coordinator, I call those resources and advocate for those people who can't advocate for themselves. And guess what? I'm not a family member. I'm not a friend. I'm nowhere. They don't know me from a can of paint, but they trust me enough to advocate on their behalf.
Yeah.
So think about it. Advocacy.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, our hour has flown by, Lauren. My goodness.
I know this always happens to us.
I am so grateful that you were here for us. So, um, Lauren, I'm grateful for your wisdom and your strength that you have brought to this conversation, and we definitely tackled some uncomfortable truths, but we have to be sure, like, because so many out there are silenced and they're not protected, that we've got to raise our voices for those who can't speak for themselves. So let's take
Mhm.
a moment to reflect. Like, Denim Day definitely is not about fashion, it's about fighting the false narratives and victim blaming that continues to, like, plague us as survivors, and it shields those who harmed us. So we have to take a role where we call that out. We have to
Yes.
not accept harmful comments or questions and stand beside survivors in all these spaces. So if you were moved by today's episode, do not let that end here. Let's take some action. You can volunteer with us. Break the Silence right now is in massive need of volunteers, especially across these social media platforms. We need moderators here in the podcast, people to engage in our comments and DMs. And there's other vital roles that Break the Silence has, from outreach to content, to all kinds of things. So please go to our website, which, let me grab that link and populate it in there for you, because I don't have my amazing Amanda to be able to do that for me right now. But um, if you would like to volunteer, we would love to have you. Lauren, you want to talk about that just for a little bit? Because Lauren was a volunteer with us for many years before she became a board member.
Well, I can truly tell you, being a volunteer, I bottom line, I love volunteerism. Period. I promote volunteering to anyone, and honest, as a mental health first aider, it actually helps with your mental health. So- and so, but when you volunteer for BTS, you're really entering a family almost. It's a community and it's like a family. So like you're volunteering for a cause that says that we hear you, we see you, we understand you. I want to help you. And in the midst of all that, say if and so in the midst of all that, as a volunteer, we help you because we like if you're struggling, we understand you. And you're not. It's like this, just like you're helping somebody else. We're here to back you up to help you because anytime we volunteer to help, it's like this. We are reaching
Mhm.
people. We are literally voices for those who can't talk or read or even have a voice for themselves. Because us as volunteers and even some of us who are domestic violence survivors, we often say we want to be the people that who have helped us or those who did not or we didn't seek help. We want to be that bridge for them. And that's where we are. As volunteers, we are the bridge. We're helping build that bridge so they can cross over to the other side and know that when they are healed, happy, and whole and healthy, that is the win that we get. That is the win. So come volunteer with us. We learn from each other. we educate each other, we even hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
And but we make sure that our mission is to make sure domestic violence awareness is out there and is being loud and is being seen with bells, whistles, and lights. Okay. And that we're helping the cause to make sure that these victims and these survivors feel like they have a safe and judgment-free home for them to be themselves and know that they are not that they feel vulnerable with us. So please volunteer with us. I
Absolutely.
volunteered long enough. I volunteered for a long time for me
Uh,
to get to here. And
yes.
I'm sticking with it.
And volunteer positions are all remote. And some of them, if you have like an hour a week, yeah, you would be great at some of the positions we have. So please check that out on our website. And also, if you feel moved, you can donate over there on the website as well. Or here, you can always send Facebook stars here or donate through our platform here at Break the Silence. If you go to our pages, that is at the top of them. We have a GoFundMe, Patreon, Venmo, we're in PayPal, my Giving Circle, all those avenues. And also, don't forget to listen to us here on the podcast. Like, subscribe, share, and follow us on our social media platforms. And don't forget to mark your calendars for next week's episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors Uncensored. We will be confronting the latest headlines and current issues affecting survivors and their families across the globe. So until then, survivors don't need your judgment, they need your voice. Together, let's break the silence once and for all. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Through the Eyes of Survivors. My name is Tara Woodlee, and I am the president of Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence, an organization that gives survivors and their families, and the families that have lost loved ones to domestic violence, access to a community that understands the journey that they're facing. We hope this episode impacts you, and hopefully you want to learn more about the topic. If it is helping you in some way, let us know in the comments below. We love your feedback. Also, make sure to click the subscribe button below and the bell right next to it so that you can get notified the next time an episode premieres. We hope you will see us in the next episode, and thank you.